Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's 4 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the November 2020 meeting of the Omaha Public Power District Board of Directors. Thanks, directors, for joining us in person today, and for the staff for pulling this together again. Thanks to those of you that are on WebEx. I hope everyone's loved ones are staying safe and healthy today. With me in the room are my fellow board members, Amanda Bogner, Mike Kavanaugh, Ann McGuire, Janice Malhoff, Eric Williams, and Rick Yoder, and Director Tim Gay has joined us remotely via WebEx. We also have President and CEO Tim Burke, our General Counsel Steve Bruckner with the Fraser Stryker Law Firm, and members of our board meeting support staff in the room. OPPD senior management team members and subject matter experts are participating in today's meeting remotely via WebEx. Additionally, we have about 3 to 5 members of the public attending on WebEx only, so no members of the public are in attendance in person. Great job, everybody. As a reminder to board members, senior management, and OPPD staff that are on WebEx, please mute your microphones to reduce background noise. For those of us in the room, you have a microphone in front of you that must be turned on when you're speaking. It's on when the red light is on, so don't forget to do that before you speak. The members of the public on WebEx, thank you for attending. If you joined us via WebEx, you are in listen-only mode. If you have any technology questions, please use the chat feature in WebEx to communicate with the event host. If you happen to get disconnected from the WebEx conference, we ask that you simply rejoin in the same manner as when you originally joined. Okay, I'll now ask President Burke to give us a safety briefing. Tim?
Great, thank you. We are in the legislative chamber.
You got your mic on?
Thank you. We are in the legislative chambers and the Douglas County building facilities, city county facilities. And there are no public here, but we will be directed by the security that is in this room appropriately as necessary. We'll go to the next slide here. There are 10 actions we're asking every Nebraskan to be taking. And if you have listened to the update from the governor, we're moving into the orange kind of area with the spread of COVID-19 and the impacts. We've seen that all across our service territory in the Midwest, including OPPD as well. And so one of the things we're asking all of our employees is to make sure that we stay 6 feet away, maintain a safe social distance, to make sure that we wear our masks, to make sure that we limit our outside and inside facilities with groups of people. And so we would just ask the public to do that as well. It's incredibly important, one, not only to protect you, but also to protect the men and women at OPPD that operate one of the most important critical infrastructure facilities in this region. So with that, that concludes my safety report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Much appreciated. Let's run through our list of guidelines for the conduct of the meeting. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public on oppd.com. This meeting is being recorded via WebEx events our board meetings have public comment periods on the agenda. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are part of the official public record. Following board discussion on each pending matter, and I believe we have 2 votes today, I will ask for public comment before bringing the matter to a vote. Also, prior to adjournment of the meeting, you will have an opportunity to comment on any other matters of OPPD business. For now, we will only take comments via WebEx because there's nobody in the room. And you have 2 options for notifying us if you would like to make a comment. Option 1, which is being displayed now, involves sending the meeting technology host a message using the chat feature, simply stating that you wish to speak. Mo, can you walk through this, please?
Thank you, Chair Moody. For those who have joined us using a computer or WebEx mobile app, you will find a button in your WebEx interface to open the chat panel. Once open, you may send your message to the meeting technology host. Requests to provide comments will be relayed to Chair Moody for recognition during the public comments section.
Option 2, which is being displayed now, involves the hand raise feature. Mo?
WebEx allows attendees to virtually raise their hand. You may use this feature to indicate to OPPD that you wish to be recognized to provide comments. The hand raise button is located in the participant list panel as displayed on this slide. After you have provided your comments, please press the hand raise button again to virtually lower your hand. And for those who have joined the meeting using only a telephone, WebEx has a hand raise feature that is activated by pressing *3 to raise and lower your hand. When we see your hand raised, we will acknowledge you by referencing a portion of your phone number. For example, caller with the phone number beginning in 402-123. If you wish to provide comments when recognized, please wait a brief moment to be unmuted and begin speaking. At this time, if you would like to try using the hand raise feature, please do so as a test. I don't see anyone.
Okay. So I will, of course, allow plenty of time and each opportunity for public comment for members of the public to provide notification. When I call on a member of the public to speak, our meeting technology host will unmute your microphone. Before commencing your comments, I suggest you first affirm that we can hear you. And then once we have, please state your name and address and state the name of any organization or person you are representing. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending at the discretion of the board. To assist you, we will display a timer to ensure each member of the public receives a consistent amount of time. Ms. Henners will signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. Please direct your comments to me. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or officer of the district. If you have materials that you would like to provide, please email them to Ms. Henners at mfhenners@oppd.com. That's mfhinners@oppd.com. She will distribute them on your behalf. Okay, Ms. Henners, will you please take the roll call?
Wagner? Here. Kavanaugh?
Here.
Gay?
Here.
McGuire? Here. Molhoff? Here. Moody?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Yoder?
Here.
Announcement regarding public notice of meeting. Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in Outlets newsletter, and on OPPD.com. By displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza since November 6, 2020, and by emailing such notice to each of the district's directors on that same date. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the Opens Meeting Act is available for inspection on OPPD.com. The consent agenda items for this evening are as follows. Item 6, approval of the September 2020 Comprehensive Financial and Operating Report, October 2020 meeting minutes, and the November 13th, 2020 agenda. Item 7, Nebraska City Station Unit 1 Condenser Retube Labor Contract Award, Resolution number 6399. Item 8, Sarpy County Station Unit 4B Engine Repair, Request to Negotiate, Resolution number 6400. Item 9, SD11 Economic Development Monitoring Report, Resolution number 6401. If there are no corrections, changes, or additions to the consent agenda items, I need a motion and a second to approve the items.
Motion approved.
Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. We discussed these action items at the committee meeting on Tuesday, so there will be no discussion. At this time, I would like to ask if any members of the public have any comments on these consent agenda items. Again, you've got 2 options for noting that interest. Either send a chat to the technology host or raise your virtual hand. I'll pause for a moment now to see if anyone would like to speak. Brent, any requests via the chat?
We do not have any requests in the chat.
Okay, and I don't see any hands unless I'm missing them.
I don't see any hands.
Okay. Let's take the roll, Ms. Henners, please.
Wagner?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Gay?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Molhoff?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item 10, corporate officer appointment, Scott M. Foch, Vice President, Corporate Strategy and Governance, resolution number 6402. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the appointment of Scott M. Foch as Vice President, Corporate Strategy and Governance, and Assistant Secretary of the District, and the compensation set forth on the attached exhibit be and hereby are approved, effective December 1, 2020.
So move. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Director McGuire?
Thank you. Mr. Foch has amazing experience as far as strategic management and consulting. He's, for the past 20 years, he's had experience in hospitality, financial services, healthcare, and federal services industries, including the Best Western International, First National Bank of Omaha, Creighton University's Medical School, and Constellation West. Additionally, he's worked independently as a strategic consultant as a variety of businesses and nonprofit organizations. He currently serves as Senior Director, Corporate Strategy and Governance for OPPD. Mr. Foch actually came to OPPD in the fall of 2013, just in time to help with the coordination of the development of our board policies. Since then, he's played the point in guiding us through the day-to-day implementation of the strategic directives, the board staff linkage, the governance processes. In other words, he's been the guru of board processes, of our board policies. He's the go-to person for all of us. However, but wait, there's more. In addition to that, his responsibilities have continued to increase. He now has 6 direct reports. Reports are Senior Corporate Governance Specialist, Ms. Hinners, who's here with us today, Strategic Planning Director, Mr. Kaminsky, Director of Risk Management, Mr. Leskowski, Director of Corporate Audit, Ms. DeSure, Director of Continuous Improvement, Langle, and Director of Innovation, Mr. Matt Hardebeck. In addition to that, emerging roles include compliance, governance, and legal operations. Mr. Foch's responsibilities has risen to the level that Mr. Burke has decided that this is the vice president's position. This is a new position that reflects the ever-changing roles in our utility industry. I'm proud and honored to recommend his appointment as this role of VP Corporate and Strategy and Governance. His salary, which has been recommended, is $287,897, and this is 80.64% of the midpoint. Now, I'd like Mr. Burke perhaps to comment on the creation of the new vice president position.
Yes, thank you very much, Director McGuire. You know, this role is not a new position, but really is being elevated to an officer executive role at OPPD. Mr. Foch has continued over the last 4 to 5 years to report directly to me to begin to work through this enterprise-wide governance and planning function that we're really creating for the future at OPPD. And Scott has done just an amazing job of this development and execution of all the elements that I have asked of him in developing this enterprise-wide governance and planning approach, and has done so professionally. He's created and executed and collaborated across the whole senior team and organization. He's one of our key senior leaders and has been, I believe, based on the feedback of the board, incredibly responsive to their needs and requests. So it became very easy for me to recommend Scott to fill this role as Vice President of Corporate Governance and Planning for OPPD. So thank you.
Other comments from board members? Director Wagner?
So I think that's really interesting at this time with all the transition that we're doing at the utility to really elevate this role from a senior director to a vice president position. I think it adds a lot of weight to strategy and vision and really putting the district in a position that we're always going to be looking forward, not just a year, not just 5 years, but really long term. And it formalizes that. And I think it's really an appropriate thing for us to do at this point. And I think that Scott is the perfect candidate to fill the role first. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bogner. Other comments? Dr. Williams, go ahead.
Yeah, following on what Director Bogner pointed out, I think that both the increased importance of the strategic planning and long-term vision work that's going on within the organization is excellent. It's needed, and I appreciate the direction that we're headed with that. And secondly, Scott's work in the 2 years that I've been here has been admirable, and I agree that he is a great leader for the organization and doing excellent work in that planning and strategy area. And so I agree that this is a good move for the organization long-term. I think it will put us in a strong position as we look to the future. So I think this is great. I appreciate the recommendation from Tim and the direction we're headed with this.
Thank you, Director Williams. Any other comments from folks in the room? Checking in on Director Gay. I see you, Director Gay. Any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Director Moody. I also commend Tim Burke for promoting Scott. This position to me is very important as I've seen the growth of the voice of the constituents and the ratepayers through the board members. And I think the path that OPPD is on with such great involvement of the board members really requires somebody to kind of coordinate everything. And he's shown he's been able to do that over the years. Also his work on just coordinating the other senior managers and helping, I think, is where this position will be helpful. But very important position, the right person to be doing it. So I wholeheartedly support Scott and intend to vote for this today. So thanks for checking in with me.
Of course. Thank you, Director Gay. Just a couple comments from me, and then we'll take public comment. One is to just make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. I think we've talked about it enough, but to make sure there are kind of two things happening here. One is the establishment of this position as an officer level. That's not a board action. That's something that Tim has decided to do. That's happening. And this is our job here is to approve Scott's salary. So again, just wanted to make sure that that was clear. I fully agree. I think this is as just to simply echo what has been said, Scott's doing a phenomenal job, and I can't imagine, all of the forward-thinking work that we're doing right now, doing that without him. Super critical to the success of that, and elevating this role in the way that we are, I think, is really important to the district's success longer term. Okay. Now we're going to take a moment to see if there's any public comment. If any members would like to make a comment, please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. Telephone users, if you're only on the phone, please press *3 to raise your virtual hand. Okay, I am seeing one hand raise from, I believe, Kim Massey. Let's go ahead and unmute Kim. Kim, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
I'm nervous. Does anybody know we're cutting it off? No, just you two.
You're doing great. We can hear you. Go right ahead. Name and address, please.
Okay. So I put them all my face. That is a fun haircut. It looks fun. It'll be easy for you. And I find that Bob, like that, you get a ton of compliments. I hope so.
Hey, Kim, are you there? Kim, are you there? Did we lose her?
Looks like she has lowered her hand, actually.
Okay. Okay, sorry about the technical difficulty there, Kim. I'll give you a moment to rejoin or re-raise your hand if you'd like. Brent, any chat requests?
I have no chat request, Director. I have no chat request, Director Moody.
Okay, very good. I'm pausing for just a moment. All right, we're going to take a moment, make sure our technology is squared away, and then we'll get back at it. Not a problem. All right, so we're good. Last call for public comments. Brent, any chat requests?
I have no other chat requests.
Okay, thank you. And I don't see any hand raises. Mo, could you call the roll, please?
Wagner,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Gay, McGuire,
Yes.
Mulhoff,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Scott, I see you out there. Congratulations. Well deserved, sir.
Thank you all very, very much.
Okay, we are on to agenda item number 11, the Technology Platform Strategic Initiative Update, which we're all super excited about. I'm going to kick it over to you, Mr. Burke.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. And I'm going to do a quick kickover to Kate Brown, who's our Vice President of Information Technology. As we have done over the past several months is as we begin to develop kind of the portfolio of what the initiatives, strategic initiatives, their kind of scope and scale of the work that we're going to be doing. We have brought that back to the board and we'll bring each of these strategic initiatives back at certain intervals as we complete, develop, and need to report back to the board. And so our commitment is to continually do that. Today, you're going to hear about the Technology Platform Strategic Initiative Update. I'm going to turn it over to Kate Brown and she will turn it over to Steve Brown. No relation, except they're in the same business unit. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kate. Kate, please go ahead and kick off this Strategic Initiative Update.
Tim, thank you. Good afternoon. I am just going to say a few words and then I will hand it over to Steve Brown, who's our Director of Enterprise Architecture. I just want to say that what Steve's going to walk through here is a culmination of a lot of amazing work by the business technology leadership team in collaboration across all the different business units and specifically with the Strategic Initiative Steering Committee, which is led by Bob Kaminsky, which has been a fabulous construct, I believe, in our environment that's really helped us find a really solid path. And what you're going to hear from Steve today, I think represents for OPPD and our customer owners this precipice that we sit at in terms of the future and what this will look like from a digital, electronic digital perspective in terms of what we're going to build. And I'm really excited about it. I want to thank Steve specifically for his leadership in this space. It's been phenomenal. And I think you'll really enjoy listening to what we have to present today. With that, Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate, and thank you for allowing me to present this content. As Kate said, our goal is to provide an update, talk a little bit about where we are and where we believe we are going. Next slide, please. So in 2019, we introduced this initiative, and it kicked off a series of processes and kicked off our journey. We've spent a lot of 2020, to Kate's comment, working with the Strategic Steering Committee across the business. That group has proven to be a highly collaborative component of our planning, and it's allowed us to gain perspective of all parts of the business. As we look at technology and how it permeates, all parts of this industry, we have gained insight that we did not have before. So we're going to start with where we are. We're going to take a look at our potential future and how we see things today, and then talk about how we believe we're going to get there. Next slide, please. So on the left side, there's a statement that talks about our technology base. And, I'll try to summarize this. Our employees and our customer owners have to have confidence in our technology and the way that we handle it, whether it's in the context of security or whether it's reliable and it's there when we ultimately need it. Reliable, secure, and sustainable technology. That's the key to digital enablement, and that's the key to long-term, capability that we can actually, as I said, sustain, and it's trusted. So on the right, these are the areas that we know we have to get better at. We know that we need to get good, gain proficiency, and look out into the future if we're going to be successful with an actual digital transformation. So I'm going to go through each one of these and just describe some of the fundamental components, just to give context. So our core, that refers to our true core technology that either runs the business or serves as the base for all other technology components. Examples would be our business systems and the gears that connect our assets with finance, with how we interact with other entities outside of OPPD, and how we interact with our customers. It gets into our security platforms and how we truly make things secure, and as I said before, trusted. That's our core. We build everything from that. Asset talks about the criticality of this organization's understanding of our assets holistically. Where are they? What are they? How do we leverage them? How do we handle them financially? How do we leverage them in the field? How do we keep our readiness level where it needs to be when it comes to being prepared for the moment when we need them? That holistic requirement gets into everything that's out in the field, out on our poles, once again, or in our data centers. We have to become, and we will become, experts in the asset space. Data talks about data as an asset. We know we can make better decisions. It won't make all of our decisions for us, but we know that we have a lot of data that's useful for, once again, predictive analytics, potentially data that our customers can leverage to make better decisions in their lives. We know that we can bring that data forth and make it useful. So we know we have to manage it, and we have to make it available, and we have to do that in a manner that's secure and that our employees and our customers trust. And then we move into mobility. I talked about, the criticality of our core systems, and mobility really is another big umbrella, if you will, of the way we operate. It almost qualifies as a core platform. Today, our field workers, our plant workers, people in the office, our customers, mobility is part of every day. And mobility turns into, it's a tool, if you will. Smartphone, we have smart devices, we have measurements out of plants, once again, smart devices. We know that those devices have to be connected. The way the data that they're sending back and forth is handled needs to be, once again, secure and trusted. And when you use an OPPD mobile device, it should be like a tool, a trusted, reliable, resilient piece of equipment. And when a customer, reaches out with their mobile phone, as an example, and uses one of our sites, once again, it's reliable, it's trusted. You know when you're at an OPPD, on an OPPD application or on an OPPD site. Consistency is critical. So we want to build that trust in the mobile space. We want to enable our workforce. So I bring these topics forth because we know that we've got to take some serious steps in this space. And we've already taken some. So some of these areas, we already have projects that are active today. And I'm going to talk about how we will bring those together into a unified strategy going forward. Next slide, please. So once again, on the left, this half wheel, this shows critical areas, if you will, that really make up OPPD. Not all of them, but some of them. And when we look into the future, I just want to go through a quick example, scenario of how we might leverage some of the capabilities I just talked about. So in this example, we talk about a field worker that's being dispatched. And we talk about, our smart grid that's fully connected, that automatically detects a problem and might redirect one of our employees based on their skill level, based on their location, and based on, maybe something to do in the safety realm. So that person's dispatched and they're going to go to an area that we know about and our customers know about it. They've been notified that OPPD is on the way, and maybe maybe a safety message is delivered as a result. But that's an automated process based on, once again, status of our grid. We know where our employees are, we know their skills, and once again, we can route them in an automated fashion. That worker has some, as I said before, more advanced tools. So through our mobile platforms, they have the ability to bring up a view of that asset. Hopefully it's some type of geospatial asset that you can get all dimensions of it, including its historical data, so you understand what you're dealing with. That person can make better decisions in the moment. Maybe it's to replace it. And that replacement process is automated. Replacement's readied. It's automatically replaced to make sure we have asset readiness. And once again, our customers are made aware of what we're doing and allowed to, potentially give us comments. It leads us into, once again, our commitment to our customers and, them being part of this process and making sure that they have awareness and they understand safety precautions and any other things that might put them in a better position. So as we move through this wheel, we get into the data component and we talk about this field scenario that's happened. And as we go forward a little bit, you might look at the Energy Control Center and say, hey, based on our analytics, based on what we've learned about the region, we're noticing a trend and we're going to evaluate this. They can make a better decision, a more proactive decision based on analytics and based on solid asset data that might prevent an outage that otherwise would have been a surprise. We believe this quick glimpse into the future is a very realistic scenario, but I don't know if that's the whole picture. So what we know today is putting us on the right track. We've talked to the business. The BT organization knows that we are here to facilitate and ensure that the different strategic initiatives of the other parts of the business are facilitated and enabled. And we are very connected with that. Our mantra is collaboration. So when I go into this next slide, we're going to talk about how we're going to get there to, what's our game plan and how we're going to collaborate across the business. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the future or where the future will take us. So next slide, please. So I talk about collaboration. So through the Strategic Steering Committee, I mentioned we've talked to a lot of people. We've gotten some fantastic collaborative insights. And we've broken our go forward plan into what I'm referring to as our workstream leads. And then we have advisors from across the business that will guide us as we go through. I specifically mentioned our workstream leads because the BT organization has to work together. We are all highly independent within Kate Brown's organization. And each member of that team is going to take one of the work streams to ensure that cross collaboration happens and that we are all moving forward as a team as we build the future. Our advisors and core team members, they are our business partners. And we will ensure that what we do, they know about. And as they work through their strategic initiatives, we want to make sure that we stay connected. As they make decisions, it will impact the way we make decisions. And that is something we are absolutely committed to. And the numbers that are there, that's a symbol of efficiency. We're trying to be collaborative, and we are going to be collaborative, and we're trying to do it in the most efficient way that we can. Because while we're doing these things, we know we have to keep the district running, and we're mindful of that. And our subject matter experts on the bottom there, that's going to be a combination of specific, highly technical people throughout the district being brought in to understand or help us understand reality in certain areas, as well as outside services that will come in to serve as advisors and give us additional perspective, which I will talk about more in the next slide. So next slide, please. So before I jump into the future planning, I want to talk about our commitment to today. There are many plans in play today. We have a portfolio of activities that goes out, more than 2 years. And we are committed to, reducing our risk. We are committed to our life cycle management. And we are committed to things that the business needs today. So we're going to keep an eye on today while keeping an eye on the future. We know we have that double duty that we have to do. And we are preparing and planning accordingly to make sure that we do not take our eye off the ball for what the district needs today. And I want to be sure to make that specific point. Next slide, please. So as we look at the initiative and how we're going to go about it, today, we've already started some of this. So we've started a baseline assessment of understanding where we are today. Where are we standing now? We're then moving into an envisioning engagement that talks about learning what we might not understand. So we're going to bring in some industry experts to try to give us some different perspective. I started this presentation out by talking about where we're headed today and what we believe we need to get good at. And we believe in that. Is there more? And what perspective don't we have that we can apply to those areas? We want to gain that. We want to share it with the steering committee, and we want to try to take our vision of what we need to be for our customer owners for the future, and get that plan a little further along. So we'll see what that perspective yields, but we hope to gain that, and that's where we are right now. Once that's done, we're then going to take a step back, and we're going to say, okay, we have a different perspective, and we're going to make some adjustments. How do our existing strategies change as a result of what we've learned? How do we take existing initiatives and maybe pull them into a more unified approach, potentially a slightly different direction? That's the next step. We'll then take that information and align that with the direction of the business. So the other members of the steering committee will be part of this envisioning effort. Matter of fact, I would argue they are critical stakeholders to the process. So did they learn something? Did it change their perspective? We will all adjust together and come up with, once again, a unified vision of what we're targeting as an organization. Once that's done, we go into our planning. We'll then enter into a planning phase. And at the end of that phase will be execution plans that lead us to 5, 10, and 20-year projections on where we need to be. Once again, the technology side of this positioning itself to support the various strategies of the company. So that's how we're moving forward. And at least that's what's planned out for now, ending in Q3 of 2021 is the goal. Next slide, please. So in summary, I've outlined where we are today, talked a little bit about how we foresee what the future might look like, giving a use case. We talked about how we're going to get there. We talked about keeping an eye on today. Once again, we know we have double duty and we are preparing to do that. And then we talked about what's our plan through 2021, which will then yield our execution plans. Once again, 5, 10, and 20 years are our time spans. So I would invite any questions from the board or from our senior leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I'll open it up for questions from board members. If I don't need to field them all, just if you're ready, go ahead. Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to remark that when you mention a fully connected smart grid, that really makes me hopeful and excited for the future, because there's a lot that we can do once we're fully connected with smart grid that helps with customer satisfaction. It helps with making sure our rates are appropriate, and it really helps us to do that energy delivery in a way that is, as you said, more reliable, more secure, more sustainable. And I'm really excited to hear that. And also the keeping an eye on today while planning for the future is so important, because we have to keep the lights on while we're, have to run the ship while we're planning the course ahead. So this is excellent. Mr. Brown, thank you. And Kate and your team, we really appreciate this work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments, board members?
Yeah, so in talking about the assets that we're going to be looking at and connecting with the technology platform, can you help us understand, is this mostly software, mostly hardware? What's the breakdown of what this strategic initiative focuses on relative to the other work that other teams are looking at? I mean, when you say asset, I think that might mean different things to different people. So you know, elaborate a little bit on how much of this is ones and zeros and how much of this is wires and, you know, actual things in the physical world?
Fantastic question. Yes, let me, there are definitely some differences. So to give you some concrete examples, we talk about asset, so physical assets as an example. So what's out on our poles, what's underground, assets that are recorded in a GIS platform as an example, geospatial data for our engineering teams. We talk about assets in the context of just warehousing, just, you know, understanding what do we have, what is our inventory, you know, barcoding, those fundamentals. And then we talk about the logical side, the software side of tying those assets together so that we can centrally manage them and associate the asset data with our financial systems. So as the other teams are working on their asset initiatives, and they've all got them, we're making sure that the software in the back end and the capabilities around, once again, barcoding, geospatial systems, and just, once again, our financial systems, that we tie those together to bring that data in so that we can leverage it across the business. So our context is enablement of all these different areas, whether it is assets in the field, assets in warehouses, or once again, the financial information that goes along with those assets. Does that answer that question well enough?
Yeah, I think so. And there were a couple names on one of the slides, people that I don't specifically personally recognize. But so these are people who are generally doing coding work, not people doing in the field physical things. And your work is primarily in the digital area. Is that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding as we listen to presentations in the future that is the summary of what we're hearing.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions?
Sure. I'll throw one out there. A couple actually. The first one is more just expectations of when we might see the report out on the strategic initiative after the content experts or the other outside experts have come in. As I understood the timeline, that'll happen first and second quarter of next year. Would we expect to see something end of second quarter, third quarter?
So our deliverable, so our plan is to have our strategy reformulated by the, well, once again, obviously there's some variability, but by the end of Q1, we expect to have a different perspective, if you will, that will finalize our directional plans. And then we'll align that with the business. So yes, in that time frame, we'll have that. And, you know, once again, we'll make that available as this board requires. The final planning, though, as I said before, the execution plans, we don't expect until the end of next year, well, the end of Q3. So those are the timelines. Those are the milestones when it comes to strategic update and then actual execution plans for the longer term estimates.
And Director Yoder, can I ask a follow-up?
Yes, please.
I've got a question about timing as well. I was honestly surprised to see it going as quick as it is, partly because my understanding of the other strategic initiatives is that I think they're scheduled to continue to move and then generally wrap up kind of towards the end of next year, if I remember correctly. And maybe this is just an ignorant perception on my part, but I assume that some of what we need from a technology standpoint will be informed by what we learn in those strategic initiatives.
Mm-hmm.
So help me understand how those things fit together. You know, the customer service initiative, I have to assume we're going to learn from our customers what they're looking for from a technology standpoint. Decarbonization will tell us, you know, a lot about what kind of smart grid we're going to need. So help me put that puzzle together from a timing standpoint.
Yeah. Another great question. So we know that, once again, we know we're going to have to change in response to the business. And we're going to have a certain set of answers and a certain set of understandings by next year. The business will continue to evolve, and we know that. And not everybody will be completely finished with their SIs, and some of their SIs have phases just like ours will. We know we're going to have to pivot. We may have to pivot a few times as we're on this journey, so that our go forward plans, we know, are not, you know, written in stone, and we have to be open to some level of flexibility and agility, and we will be. We know that that's going to happen, but what we can't do is, at least we don't believe it's the right thing to do, is to believe that we can wait for everything to get all lined up and then execute in some type of bulk fashion. That's something that we don't believe is realistic. So we're going to get started. We're going to meet the business where they are next year and begin the journey, knowing we're going to have to pivot as they change.
Love it. Great answer. Yeah, thank you. Director Yoder, back to you. Sorry.
No, I appreciate the follow-up question, and I too appreciate the answer. So let's imagine ourselves watching the Black Mirror or some technology show, and where things can go. Now, I recognize that technology on television and the movies allows a detective to look from across the street under the bed, you know, with computer enhancement, and that's not what happened. But I also know that have seen in my lifetime, business models change dramatically due to what IT and data management and innovation can bring to existing companies. Where does that conversation happen? And when does the board hear about that?
Well, I used, you know, I made the statement, I hope we get some new perspective. I think that looking at the utility of the future is going to give us some perspective, and looking at the customer of the future and how they want to interact I think some of those insights will come to us early on and give us some good ideas. And I think that as the technology team works with the business, I do think innovation in that type of mindset will start moving. I think it is a little bit today, and so don't get me wrong, but I believe that we're going to keep learning, and it's going to change our perspective. So, when we talk about, looking a little bit more outside the box and looking at really advanced technologies, I do believe we're going to propose some things. I think there are a lot of good ideas out there today. And I think that maybe today's framing is a limiter. And if we look at things without that, if we think about building something new, I think a lot of those things become options. So I'm hopeful, but I don't want to go too far with that response just yet. But I do believe we're headed towards some things that aren't mainstream, that truly are going to bring us into a more innovative place with how we service the district.
I really appreciate that answer, and I thank you for that. And simply reinforce my previous question. This will be a cyclical, iterative process. And as a board member, I would love to see those updates as those steps take place, especially as the IT has the opportunity to transform the business model. Thanks.
I echo that desire for updates. Thank you, Director Yoder. Good questions. Any other questions?
If you wouldn't mind, this is Tim. I just like to add, I think some of the future focus that the board will be seeing shortly is some of the work we're doing on the Powering the Future Vision 2050 work, which is really to begin to lay out some of those scenarios on what it may look like in 2050 that will begin to drive some of the focus areas, not only in the strategic initiative work, but also in the work that we're seeing here that Mr. Brown and Ms. Brown are beginning to talk about in technology, and that you've heard from Troy Vai talk about in the modernization of our grid assets and that technology specifically in our operations. And I think what Mr. Brown is really getting at is how do we do the connection of all these pieces so they're integrative. And it really goes to the chart that we identified early on of what we believe the future of this industry looks like. It's a multiple path, not the one path that it is today, but it's fully integrated with communication infrastructure and networks to be able to deliver and receive power throughout our district in a number of different ways. Some we don't even know about today between now and 2050. So that'll be part of our agility that we'll have to have as we move forward, is to be able to move quickly and really solidify kind of the direction that we're beginning to talk to the board about. So.
Great, thank you for that. I've just got a couple comments that don't necessarily require a response so that we can get onto the always popular president's report.
Director Moody, this is Kate Brown. Could I just add something to what Steve was saying there? Because I really would like to take this opportunity to comment on, Steve had mentioned around double duty, and I want to kind of walk a little further there in terms of, I'm honored to work with the team that is at OPPD from a business technology and from the business perspective, because they are doing amazing work. And what Steve has been describing is there's this need to keep this core component moving forward that we have in existence today, and taking that to a new level as we sort all these things out. The amount of effort, time, strategic thinking, just all of what goes into that, it's amazing. I have been inspired and amazed watching what this team can do, along with what the business partners and all the SMT bring to the table. And I just want to reflect that for a moment, because I don't want that to get lost in this of how big all of this is and what's been done to get us to this point. So I just wanted to reflect that. Thank you for letting me take the time.
Yeah, of course, Kate, thank you for hopping in. That's a really great point. And the work is, I certainly don't have an appreciation for just the magnitude of the work. So thank you for reinforcing how important that is. Just a couple of things. One is, I wrote down to create a technology base that cultivates customer and employee confidence. I really like that. That struck me. I feel like I'm channeling Director Yoder a little bit, but I couldn't help but wonder how we're going to measure that as we go forward. Just something to think about and consider, I suppose. And then the two other items that I would mention are really around, thinking about data as an important asset for us. And I think that's, yes, critical for us, but it's also critical for all of our customer owners, right? And the extent to which, as you were saying, Tim, our systems are interconnected and integrated with our customers in terms of, how they manage their buildings and how they seek greater energy efficiency. The real-time data is something that I think they're going to be super interested in. And we've talked about this briefly as a board before, but I'm also interested in, from a data perspective, the extent to which we are able to aggregate and then open source data so that anyone out there can use that for good. Seeing a lot of other entities, and I don't know the extent to which that's common in utilities. I'm by no means suggesting that we share individual customers' data. I know that that's protected and privileged, but certainly I think it's an interesting idea to think about how we have a lot of really good data, and as we get better at collecting it, I can't help but wonder to what extent there are others out there that could use it in a very productive fashion. Okay. Thank you very much. That was really great and super exciting to see all these strategic initiatives come together. So thank you to Steve and Kate for pulling this together. Very well done.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 12, the President's report.
President's report. All right, let's move on. Let's go right to that second slide there. Baseload generation. Nebraska City 1 unit was available all month long. All these variable percentages are either based on either outages or how the market received the units. And Nebraska City 2 had 3 days of non-operation due to an outage and a repair, as well as North Omaha 4 had 2 days, and North Omaha 5 had 1 day in our baseload generating units. On our peaking generation, which is the next slide, you can see relatively small numbers relative to these peaking generation. It is interesting, Cass County is the first one on here. The capacity factor in October was 9.9%. Now that compares to 0.8% in 2019 and 2.2% in 2018. So these are typically called on really from the market to maintain the reliability and resiliency of the market. We also saw Sarpy County at 5.5%. That compares to 2.3 and 4.5 in 2019 and 18 respectively. So we're seeing some of our peaking units being used for the market as well. The next slide is our October renewables. Renewable energy contributed to 42% of OPPD's retail energy sales in the month of October. Wind capacity factor was 45.8%. Our capacity factor for our community solar was 20.3%, and year to date, it's 22.6%. Year to date, renewable energy contributed to 37.8% of our OPPD retail sales, and the capacity factor for the year for our renewables was 48.8% and 44% specifically for wind. So that speaks to our renewable portfolio. The next slide, during the APPA Customer Connection virtual conference that was held a week or so ago, OPPD was awarded the Smart Energy Provider designation, which it was awarded by the American Public Power Association. We joined a number of top public power utilities across the nation with this designation, and it's a 2-year designation that will end in 2020, and we'll have to reapply for that designation. On the next slide is really our team that received that. If you take a look at the top 3 from the top left are all the APPA folks that were part of that designation, and the OPPD team is there accepting their award virtually. So it's just a great recognition and continuing our work around smart energy related activity down through our continuum. And so we just continue to improve as we move forward with that. Regarding our core values of honoring our community, the Center for Energy Workforce Development held their Energy Careers 2020 virtual conference on October 21st. This workforce development was formed to help utilities work together to develop solutions for upcoming workforce needs in the industry. And OPPD's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department was able to encourage over 500 educators and students to attend. The conference brought together students, veterans, career changers, women, and those represented in today's energy workforce. We had one of our legacy alums, Herberto Ramirez Gonzalez, on a panel discussion, which included college students, recent college graduates, and many others from all over the United States. And so it was a great opportunity to have one of our employees participate in that workforce development conference. As we talked a little bit about last month in the President's report, OPPD has received the 2019 Volunteer of the Year Award by the United Way of the Midlands. October 23rd, we officially were honored by the United Way during its virtual annual meeting, and OPPD's Vice President Lisa Olson took part in that virtual meeting and accepted the award on behalf of many of our dedicated employees who volunteered during the year for the United Way. This award celebrates companies that strive to improve our community through volunteerism, and OPPD received the award based on the percentage of employees who participated in United Way volunteer events during the 2019 campaign year, including days like the Day of Caring and the Day of Action. And we also have individuals that are volunteering in a number of ways. They are in the United Way's Emerging Leaders and also on the steering committee, on the Community Investment Review team, in the Month of Giving campaign, and the OPPD Young Professionals Volleyball Tournament, which we essentially do annually and raise money for the United Way. We do a variety of other community volunteer activities all throughout our service territory. And this year, Mart Sedke, who is our Vice President of Human Capital, serves as the Senior Manager responsible for our United Way campaign in 2020. Last year, OPPD employees and retirees raised over $239,000 for the United Way through a variety of fundraising activities. And we've continued our campaign and are seeing some pretty strong successes to date. And we've only been in our campaign for about a week. We go to the next one, the next slide here. OPPD honors all of our veterans, including some that are on our board. As we were one of the many sponsors for the Salute to Veterans virtual event that was broadcast live on November 11th. OPPD has over 200 veterans in our workforce and over 470 retirees who served in the United States military. Our gratitude goes out to the veterans from all branches of the military and to their families who also know the meaning of sacrifice. We also want to thank all of the OPPD men and women who are actively serving in the military today, including those that are in the reserved forces. So we do have a employee resource group, the OPPD Veterans Network, and we do a variety of work throughout the community. And Sean Frazier is the current chair of that organization, and they do just exceptional work in the community. On our next slide, we have an announcement that occurred on October 27th. The online retailer Amazon announced that it was going to build a fulfillment center in the Omaha metropolitan area. Our team worked over multiple months, almost a year, with this project to essentially land this project in the Omaha metro area, working with other economic development partners such as the Sarpy County Economic Development Corporation, the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, the Omaha Chamber, the City of Papillion, and Sarpy County. This 700,000 square foot facility will be operational in late 2021 and will be one of the largest such facilities of its kind in the metropolitan area. It is expecting to bring over 1,000 direct jobs to the area and more than $150 million in capital investment. And our teams get actively involved in these projects like this Amazon project. And also throughout our service territory, there was an announcement on November 10th with a new distribution center in Blair, Nebraska. Dollar General announced it will build a distribution center in Blair. It'll be over 800,000 square feet with cold storage as well, and it'll be west of the Cargill campus. It will create over 400 jobs and more than $85 million in capital investment. The OPPD team worked on this over a variety of years and actually started to have this contact with Dollar General in 2017. And we worked with the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, Gateway Development Corporation, the Omaha Chamber, the City of Blair, and also Washington County, and had a great relationship with this announcement in Blair, Nebraska. And finally, to honor the men and women, oh, by the way, Steve Brown, who presented, is one of the OPPD active veterans. So it was nice to have Steve today and also be recognized as one of our veteran employees. We also want to recognize employees that have sacrificed their life on the line of duty. And this is this individual, Walter Pond, was a cable splicer. He died January 7th, 1983 from injuries received during an underground vault explosion just west of 16th and Harney, not too far away from the Omaha facility, the Energy Plaza facility for OPPD. Another employee was with him in the vault, but he did recover from his injuries. Walt was 56 years old and had been with OPPD for 30 years. At the time of his death, he was known as an expert splicer. He trained OPPD apprentices and even worked with cable manufacturers to ensure OPPD had the best materials possible. He was survived by his wife, Kathleen, daughters Diana and Marianne, 5 brothers, 6 sisters, and 3 grandchildren. And it's just a great remembrance of the work that our employees do that at times can be dangerous. So that concludes the President's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burke. Always appreciated. And finally, an opportunity for comment on other items of district business. So for those of you that are still online, I'd like to ask if any of you have any comments on other items of district business. If you would like to make a comment, please send a chat to the meeting host or use the hand raise feature in WebEx. As a reminder, if there's anyone just on the phone, you can press *3 to raise your virtual hand, and we will see that pop up and call on you. We have 2 in the queue already. Dr. David Corbin, let's unmute him. You're unmuted, sir.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, name and address, please.
David Corbin, 1002 North 49th Street, Chair of the Nebraska Chapter Sierra Club. I debated whether to say this first part after the consent agenda, but I figured this is going into the future. So one thing I wanted to point out is that as you go into economic development, that you keep that environmentally sensitive part in there. I know Amazon has goals for renewable energy and green energy. I don't know anything about Dollar General, but I'm hoping that since you've got the 3 things, reliable, affordable, and environmentally sensitive, that you keep that in mind. I say that because the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce put out their Blueprint Nebraska report. And in that report, there is no mention of climate change. The closest they come is talking about electrification of transportation, which is a good thing. Even though the United States Chamber of Commerce says that it's their job to maintain leadership in climate science, these are their words, aggressively pursue greater energy efficiency, and they say that inaction on climate change is not an option. So I know that OPPD works with the chamber here locally, and I'm hoping that you will have influence in bringing up these things that the U.S. Chamber says that seems to be lagging in Nebraska. 2 other quick things. One, I wanted to point out that as you were talking about Washington County and that they passed the solar, allowing for solar arrays in Washington County, I wanted to acknowledge the Nebraska Sierra Club and many other environmental organizations that contacted their members, and their members contacted board members. So we weighed in favor of solar energy in Washington County. And then finally, I thought that the CARES Act utility assistant was going to be a regular part of the meetings. And I know that you talked about it in the committee meetings, but a lot of people don't want to sit through 5 hours of meetings. I hope that you can add those to the board meeting for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corbin. Appreciate those comments. Yeah, great thought on the CARES Act, and honestly, I think the best avenue for us, because let's be honest with ourselves, I'm not sure how many people are tuning in today to this one, but perhaps pulling that out of that Tuesday's meeting and making sure that we put that out somewhere so that people can get access to it, or at least making it easier for them to access, because it's all recorded. Okay, I see John Pollock also in the queue, so let's go ahead and unmute John Pollock.
Can you hear me? This is John.
Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you. Go ahead, name and address, please.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. I would echo Dr. Corbin's remarks both about the CARES Act and also the impact of climate change. The current weather situation, we've got basically a good 1 week window to do your fall stuff before the next possibility of winter weather hits. We're going to be above normal. Normal this time of year is a high of 50, a low of 30 right now. We are going to be slightly above normal this weekend, and more significantly, probably highs in the 50s and some 60s. We might even be approaching 70 late in the week. After that, the fall storm track looks like it's going to be running from the Pacific Northwest through the middle of the country. As we've already seen, we've gotten late enough in the season that brings the possibility of winter weather to our area, and it's simply too soon to tell how much winter weather we get out of any of these systems. But the overall outlook continues to be that we'll probably mostly be on the warm side as far as getting rain instead of freezing or frozen precipitation, but mostly isn't enough to really keep us in the clear. The longer term outlook as a La Nina winter, we tend to be sandwiched between above normal precipitation, below normal temperatures in the northern plains, and the exact opposite in the southern plains. So that leaves us in the middle ground, and that's very unspecific, but that's the best I can do for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pollock. Okay, I do not see any other hands raised. So for those members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, now's your time. Either send a chat to the meeting host or raise your virtual hand. Brent, have we had anybody send you a chat?
I have no chat requests, Director Moody.
Okay. Last call for hand raises. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and wrap up public comment. Thanks again to everybody who pulled this virtual meeting together. We get better at it every time, and I think we'll be doing it for a little bit longer. Okay, board members, stay safe out there. We're adjourned.